Alright guys, we're back for another video. So we had pointed out in chapter 27 that there's some important foreshadowing going on with Bob Ewell kind of chasing someone but are slowly walking behind Helen, Tom's wife. And we'll notice too that in terms of our setting, things are starting to change because the time of year is changing. And notice it's by the end of October. Okay, so think about the return to Gothic. Not only with Bob Ewell being a creepy weirdo walking after Helen, but the time of year, the end of October. What do you think of at that time? Well, in Western culture and well, other cultures too, it's so popular now. It's kind of a global activity. You got to think Halloween is coming up, right? So Halloween is starting to emerge in the background in terms of the setting. So because it's the end of October, right? So keep that in mind because it's setting up the following chapter as well. So we're going to go right to chapter 28. And now notice the weather was unusually warm for the last day of October. What do we have? We have Halloween night. Okay, what do you expect on Halloween night? It's very Gothic, right? This is a night of monsters and ghosts and maybe gore and violence. There's kind of scary stuff going on, right? It's supposed to be pretend and fun, but that's what you expect on a Halloween night. Notice the freakish weather. Where have we seen freakish weather before? Okay, it's unusually warm for a Halloween night. Should be getting cooler, maybe a bit cold, but it's a hot night. It's freakish weather. And remember, that's a Gothic motif that because society is broken, it's reflected in weird, bizarre stuff happening. Okay, it manifests the brokenness of society. So society's distorted and corrupt nature. So it's important that that's like bam right at the beginning of this chapter, because what's going to happen in this chapter, you've read it, so you know it's going to be the Halloween night attack. So just pointing that out, we didn't even need jackets. The wind was growing stronger. Jem said it might be raining before we got home. There was no moon. The streetlight on the corner cast sharp shadows on the Radley house. I heard Jem laugh softly. Bet nobody bothers them tonight, he said. Jem was carrying my ham costume rather awkwardly, as it was hard to hold. I thought it gallant of him to do so. It is a scary place, though, ain't it? I said. Boo doesn't mean anybody any harm, but I'm right glad you're along. You know Atticus wouldn't let you go to the schoolhouse by yourself, Jem said. Don't see why, it's just around the corner and across the yard. So notice, it's Halloween night, right? Although she's maturing, the Gothic description, okay, Gothic imagery here is kind of still scary to Skep. She hasn't fully matured about the Radley house. That yard's a mighty long pace for little girls to cross at night, Jem teased. Ain't you scared of haints? These are like ghosts. We laughed. Haints, hot steams, incantations, secret signs. had vanished with our years as mist with sunrise. What was that old thing Jim said? Angel bright, life and death, get off the road, don't suck my breath. Cut it out now, I said. We were in front of the Radley place. So all their kind of childish games have passed. They've matured. Jem said, Boo must not be at home. Listen. High above us in the solitary darkness, a solitary mocker poured out his repertoire in blissful unawareness of whose tree he sat in, plunging from the shrill key of the sunflower bird to the irascible quack of a blue jay, to the sad lament of poor Will, poor Will, poor Will. We turned the corner, and I tripped on a root growing in the ground. Jem tried to help me, but all he did was drop my costume in the dust. It didn't fall, though, and soon we were on our way again. We turned off the road and entered the schoolyard. It was pitch black. How do you know where we're at, Jem? I asked when we had gone a few steps. I can tell we're under the big oak because we're passing through a cool spot. Careful now and don't fall again. We'd slowed to a cautious gait and were feeling our way forward so as not to bump into a tree. The tree was a single and ancient oak. 2 children could not reach around its trunk and touch hands. It was far away from teachers, their spies, and curious neighbors. It was near the Radley lot, but the Radleys were not curious. A small patch of earth beneath its branches was packed hard from many fights, and furtive crap games. All right, what's going on here? This is a huge foreshadowing, Gothic elements. Okay, such as the lonely sound of birds screeching at night. Okay, dropping her costume. It's a problem. Into the dust. The pitch blackness, so they can't see. And then you've got this idea of by this tree, there were many fights. And there's like gouges in the tree. All of those things are at the beginning of this chapter, which is going to have an attack later. And then lo and behold, what do we get? The lights in the high auditorium were blazing in the distance, but they blinded us, if anything. Don't look ahead, Scout, Jem said. Look at the ground, and you won't fall. You should have brought the flashlight, Jem. Didn't know it was this dark. Didn't look like it'd be this dark earlier in the evening, so cloudy. That's why. It'll hold off a while, though. Someone leapt at us. God almighty, Jem yelled. A circle of light burst in our faces, and Cecil Jacobs jumped in glee behind it. Ha, gotcha, he shrieked. Thought you'd be coming along this way. What are you doing way out here by yourself, boy? Ain't you scared of Boo Radley? All right, so someone leaps at them. This time it's a joke. It's Cecil Jacobs. But this is all foreshadowing what's going to come later, as we know, with Bobby Ewell. So pay attention. These are all setting us up. All right, let's skip down. And they're returning home. Okay. Halloween night. They're coming back from the pageant that Scout was in, and she was dressed up like a ham. And somebody tells them before they leave, be careful of ghosts, haints, the voice said. Better still tell the haints to be careful of Scout. And now they're walking through the dark forest at night, and they hear something shuffling behind them. Wait, hush a minute, Scout, he said, pinching me. We walked along silently. Minutes up, I said. What you thinking about? I turned to look at him, but his outline was barely visible. Thought I heard something, he said. Stop a minute. We stopped. Hear anything? He asked. No. We had not gone 5 paces before he made me stop again. Jem, are you trying to scare me? You know I'm too old. Be quiet, he said, and I knew he was not joking. The night was still. I could hear his breath coming easily beside me. Occasionally, There was a sudden breeze that hit my bare legs, but it was all that remained of a promised windy night. This was the stillness before a thunderstorm. We listened. "Heard an old dog just then," I said. "It's not that," Jem answered. "I hear it when we're walking along, but when we stop I don't hear it." "You hear my costume rustling. It's just Halloween got you." I said it more to convince myself than Jem, for sure enough, as we began walking, I heard what he was talking about. It was not my costume. So, someone is following them. And we just saw in the previous chapter, Bob Ewell was following Helen, right? Now someone else is following them. We had not increased our pace. Jem knew as well as I that it was difficult to walk fast without stumping a toe, tripping on stones, and other inconveniences, and I was barefooted. Maybe it was the wind rustling in the trees. So what's that sound, they're wondering. But there wasn't any wind, and there weren't any trees except a big oak. Our company shuffled and dragged his feet, as if he were wearing heavy shoes. Whoever it was wore thick cotton pants. What I thought were trees rustling was the soft swish of cotton on cotton, wheek, wheek, with every step. I felt the sand go cold under my feet, and I knew we were near the big oak. Jem pressed my hands. We stopped and listened. Remember last time they were near the big oak? They talked about fights. Okay? So just in the same chapter, the foreshadowing was pointing us to this big oak. Shufflefoot had not stopped with us this time. His trousers swift softly and steadily. Then they stopped. He was running toward us with no child steps. "Run, Scout! Run, run!" Jem screamed. I took one giant step and found myself reeling, my arms useless in the dark. I could not keep my balance. "Jem, Jem, help me, Jem!" Something crushed the chicken wire around me. Metal ripped on metal, and I fell to the ground and rolled as far as I could, floundering to escape my wire prison. From somewhere nearby came scuffling, kicking sounds, sounds of shoes and flesh scraping dirt and roots. Someone rolled against me, and I felt Jem. He was up like lightning, pulling me with him, but, though my head and shoulders were free, I was so entangled we didn't get very far. We were nearly to the road when I felt Jem's hand leave me, felt Jem jerk backwards to the ground. More shuffling, and there came a dull, crunching sound, and Jem screamed. I ran in the direction of Jem's scream, and sank into a flabby male stomach. Its owner said "Oof" and tried to catch my arms, and they were tightly pinioned. His stomach was soft, but his arms were like steel. He slowly squeezed the breath out of me. I could not move. Suddenly he was jerked backwards and flung to the ground, almost carrying me with him. I thought, Jem's up. Okay, so we have a mysterious attacker. We have a kind of blindness because Scout can't see due to her costume. So we're kind of trapped in her view, right, into her point of view, because we're seeing what she sees, but she can't understand what's happening because her costume's blocking her view. But now she's being hurt. Someone's like trying to squeeze her. One's mind works very slowly at times. Stunned, I stood there dumbly. The scuffling noises were dying. Someone wheezed, and the night was still again. So someone else, there's a third person now. Well, sorry, a fourth person, I guess we would say. Because Jem, Scout, and the first attacker. Now we've got a fourth person coming in. And so two people are unidentified. But the violence seems to have ended. The night was still again. Still, but for a man breathing heavily and staggering. I thought he went to the tree and leaned against it. He coughed violently, a sobbing, bone-shaking cough. And that man moves along, and he's walking toward the road. She's looking for Jem, and she sees the man was carrying a load. The man moves away carrying a load too heavy for him, and he's actually carrying Jem. So the fourth man is carrying Jem, and then they're going to go back to the house, okay? And Bob Ewell is dead.